can feel it. I don't see it. I don't have to see it. I have a feeling of this. Tetra, truth. What is the truth? Well, it's the Taurus, the Torah. This is why the Bible is the Torah, because it's the same word. Thor, God of gods. It's a Taurus. Terror.
Yeah, channel the infinite, man is a sundial on the endless chessboard. He's standing on one tile below a lunar Cheshire cat that vanished with one smile. Genetic map with 12 rooms, bliss with the best style. I live in the X-Files, unlimited fresh vows of this lyrical West now. Mississippi, Amazon, inner city, Grand Madon, suburban, Lemurian, living tetragrammaton, 7 on the Grand Quran, gift with the best towel, true Indian misnomer, too witty, the rest bow to my mystical brush route. I be seeing star codes written in textile, pumping sacred dust, buds of Caribbean, head cloud, Nagasaki sipping serpent's venom, feeling my inertia, spinning kundalini, human genie, knew him couldn't hear me, PB, faulty science, lost in guidance, God makes being human easy, your future genie, wise and money like a new zucchini, I'm the living proof of 3D, pure fearless, it's more than just lyrics, so I speak for all forgotten ones, the spirits who decree me, for healing all the evil with the will aboard that feeds me insight that wasn't clear before, you so convinced of the illusion that you saw appear, talking to yourself, but so convinced it ain't the Lord you hear, approach the bench for what you hearing ain't the law, I steer clear like Ghost Rider with Ezekiel's wheel. With no tires, biblical road cipher, listen and grow wiser, or keep skidding in spiritual soul fire, whimsical boat rider, I'm the sphere that's in your Ouija board, overthrowing greedy lords, you see these swords, keep them sharp, swing them openly, 144,000 older G's overseas, swimming to the ovaries, blended in the solar breeze, keep pulling me back, cause the beginning isn't over me, Zodiac say the true religion in my notary, no intermission once the rhythm gets a hold of me, yeah, the word is God, I'm never giving up my poetry, that isn't what it's supposed to be, my lyrics in your groceries. Channel the infinite, candles for the innocent, lies of the indigenous tribes of the omnipotent, they playing end it quick, go away ignorance, you can't extinguish the flame of love's imminence, channel the infinite, candles for the innocent, lies of the indigenous tribes of the omnipotent, they playing end it quick, go away ignorance, you can't extinguish the flame of love's imminence. I'm that Washita, Amun Ra, serving at the knowledge bar, truth that they failed to hear, cup of compassion now we scoop from the trail of tears, my boots on your PC, the proofs in the treaties, not confused how you treat me, I'm the reason they don't never tell the truth on your TV, the great secret reborn, but who keeps me, born in the Empire State, the true ET, the youth sport to teach me, return with how you learning, emerging with fire burning out the dream, I ain't sleepy, 5-pointer star, raise the fruit on my teepee, Christmas tree calligraphy, ecliptic rhyme wizardry, constellation alphabet, complicated conversation, whispers in the tarot deck, answer invitations, read the broken buzz, doing cannabis divination, return home like Hispanic assimilation, this branded as immigration, you stand there with imitation, Omekian dark Mexican, cancel the instigation, the whole planet demanded my inspiration, Asiatic lady magna commanding the hidden nation, most gone the well adorned in the glamour of liberation. Channel the infinite, candles for the innocent, lies of the indigenous tribes of the omnipotent, they playing end it quick, go away ignorance, you can't extinguish the flame of love's imminence, channel the infinite, candles for the innocent, lies of the indigenous tribes of the omnipotent, they playing end it quick, go away ignorance, you can't extinguish the flame of love's imminence.
Sphere is when you rotate this circle around one of its diameters. But suppose you displace that diameter, you'd get a different kind of thing. And if the center was at the edge, you'd get this torus that I'm talking about that has a zero hole. Remember, I said all of this stuff is the universe. But if you can tuck it in, you can bring it back to home. So in a sense, this turn is a rebirth.
Right. Peace and blessings. Welcome to another episode of Do Knowledge Radio. First announcement, it's your host, Knowledge One Alarm. Here with the man, the myth, the legend, the one who is qualified and bona fide to be in our presence, to deduce the debauchery and the debauchery that we saw and decode it in a manner that's befitting of him, his family line, in the scholastic and revolutionary space and posture that he descends from and ascends to. Our brother, the international ambassador, my brother, one of my guides, and one of my priests in this space of reformation and transformative realignment in a way that our ancestors intended it to be, in the midst, in the presence of Almighty God, our brother, the ambassador, Crown Prince Malik Yosef in Israel. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. First and foremost, giving all honor and praise to the creator of the heavens and the earth. We thank him for all that he has done to allow us to have this moment in time. And we thank our ancestors in whatever form or fashion they may be found. I greet you, brother, and the listening audience now in the presence and the perfect words of peace of Shalom Alaikum, Assalamu Alaikum, peace and blessings to everyone. Brother Knowledge, let me first say that I'm always humbled by your words. I am deeply moved by the way you articulate yourself and express with love and compassion the revolutionary spirit and vigor that is needed from the warrior, the spiritual warrior class that seems to be in this present moment absent. I can't say enough about, as the enemy continues to attenuate that spirit in which I just spoke of, is brothers like yourself who steadfast and hold with no shame or no reservation about why Black masculinity is needed, righteous orientation is needed. And not only is it needed, it's our only salvation, because as the scripture bears witness, when you bound the strong man, you robbed the house. And your message, your example, your life has been a testament of the unbounding spiritually, intellectually, culturally, financially, and even physically of the Black God. And so I'm humbled, brother. I'm so humbled to be in your presence, in the presence of the audience, and that we can continue the work of our fathers, of our mothers, of those who preceded us in truth and righteousness, and with the fearless orientation of freedom or death, or nothing at all. And may their lives not be in vain as we continue in this vein to produce freedom, justice, and equality.
Most definitely, most definitely. So we're here to expose the man and the woman behind the curtain in the city of Oz, the Wiz, the Wizard, and their dated sorcery in regards to the mass media identity politic crisis in this deficit. So I want to yield to you for your opening remarks in this space to sort of introduce why we're here, because I think that's important.
Absolutely. Let me bring forth to the discussion a comment, a statement, a quote by supposed intellect journalist Ted Koppel. Some pronounce it Coppell. He says, history is a tool used by politicians to justify their intentions. I want to marry that with another quote, is that history is just the present day politics propositioned and placed on the past. And when I hear both of those statements, history is just a tool used by politicians to justify their intentions, and the maligning of history based on present day politics and their ability to give us a refurbished and a revised history that removes the reality of our presence and our power and our position in history and superimposes us as a subservient, complacent, incompetent people then I see why that quote is so important. But I would make an adjustment to it. History is a tool. Revised history. His story is a tool used by politicians to justify their intentions. Why do I bring that up? Because this conversation is centered around this previous week that just transpired here in Chicago, Illinois, where the Democratic National Convention was held in a city that, was it 56 years ago, was held before 1968. When you look at the eerie similarities, one, that you had a Democratic elected president who decided that he was not going to run for re-election. At that time, it was Lyndon Baines Johnson, who replaced John Kennedy after he was assassinated. Then did a term, and obviously he was going for re-election in 1968, but decided for a number of reasons, we won't get into that at this particular moment, that he would not run, even though he was the perceived favorite of the Democratic National Party. Hubert Humphrey was the one who ran in his stead. I believe that was his vice president at the time as well. This year, Joseph Biden, for a number of reasons, has decided not to run, even though initially he said he would, and nobody could replace him and remove him. And then maybe a week or so later, him talking bad and tough, that he conceded from the race and decided to put his proverbial hat behind Kamala Harris. Other examples of that reality are radical right-wing Republican. You had Nixon at the time of that race in 1968, and we have Donald Trump. Similarly positioned as far as their role on crime and the backing of the police and so forth. And even when you look at Chicago, you had a major protest of the Vietnam War, and you had the Yippies and all of them that, produced that scene that we know very familiar, where our brother Bobby Seale was handcuffed and mouth restrained in the courtroom and he wasn't even a part of the protest. Similarly, you got the present day Palestinian protests, and a lot of our Black people getting caught up that as well. Well, I bring that up because it's important to recall history so that we have a perspective of what's transpiring today. We were on a trajectory as a people in 1968 that we were not going to fall victim to the political rhetoric and satire of America and their purported desire to give us so-called equality or position within their society without substance. We had decided that enough was enough. You had the riots, I would call the uprisings of the 1967, which spawned the Kerner Commission, because they started to see, hey, these Black men and women in the inner cities aren't falling for the trope of nonviolence. They're not falling for the pushing of the agenda that they used our beloved brother, Dr. Martin Luther King, and the nonviolence movement to try to curtail the energy, the raw passion of a people that were fed up with oppression and subjugation. And then when Dr. King started to wake up from that nightmare, which was a superimposed dream by his enemy of integration and, I would say, amalgamation, and said, hey, I can't continue to preach that nonviolence, turn the other cheek narrative when my brothers and sisters are going to war and dying in the war and then coming back and still getting treated worse than the people who they're supposedly fighting over in Vietnam, that we're still economically deprived, that we have been systematic and systemically displaced in every aspect of human endeavor and the society of America. I can't preach that anymore. And he was killed. And it was a spirit and an energy that simultaneously came across Black America, that you had uprisings in over 160 cities at once without any collaboration, without any what we know present social media posts or planning. It was just the energy of enough's enough. If you can kill Dr. Martin Luther King, who at least publicly was the best of us as it relates to not being a progenitor of violence or going against the status quo, if you can kill him in cold blood in such the heinous way that you did, hell, none of us stand a chance. And it would beg to lead that an intelligent mind and intelligent people say, well, as they did in the 1700s, give me death or give me liberty or give me death, excuse me. And so what did they do? The old bait and switch. You know, he signed the civil rights, and they not only did they do that, but they started to implement a strategy of offering Negroes political positions, and certain concessions that gave a perceived financial stability and social status to a few to try to accommodate the masses. And we started to get those first Black man to do this, the first Black man to be that, the first, and some of our heroes who were revolutionaries, right, were starting to change their narrative and now preach and present themselves as conformists, even if it was under the rhetoric of Black progress. We're at that point again, that Black people are waking up. Now, we haven't completely went to the streets, but the 2020 uprisings kind of give a eerie similarity to those of the 60s, that kind of somewhat of that spirit that can be ignited at a moment's notice. But you're seeing a disposition of Black men in particular say, hold on, we're not going to let this society compromise our manhood and our masculinity to the degree that we are self-castrating ourselves. Like, we're not going to continue to follow the Democratic Party because that's what our fathers did, or that's what our parents did, or that's what's perceived to be the party of progressive thinking and liberal policies that are more inclusive to Black people. We're seeing the erasing of the Black imprint on America and in the diaspora, and we're seeing the eradication of a people who finally are starting to orient themselves to independence and self-sovereignty. And so again, they pulling out Kamala, and the Democratic is putting on a circuit show to try to convince Black people that partying is more important than substance and change. That celebrities can somewhat convince us that we're not seeing what we're actually seeing. Like, I'm gonna close with this, and we're gonna go have some more dialogue. But look at the irony of what had just taken place. I heard Oprah in real time. I was actually in these places, brothers and sisters, and that's why I feel it's incumbent that I speak to it, right? I got to look into the eyes and the souls of my brothers and sisters who were absent. I mean, spiritually and culturally absent from their bodies. Yeah, the outer shell was there, but the internal workings of their Blackness was absent. I seen Oprah take the stage, and how ironic is this? You know, it was held at the United Center, where we traditionally see entertainers come perform, and we see athletes either bounce a ball or, you know, hit a hockey puck. And in like fashion of what's traditionally, you know, takes place at the United Center, I seen a performance unlike any other. I seen Black men and white men and women both take the stage and try to perform in front of the people of America, in particular, the Black man and woman. Because when you talk about the Democratic Party, you're talking about the number one and number two constituency in being Black women and Black men. So they don't exist without your participation. And I seen them put on a show that we would fall victim to being caught up in sporting plays, as so taught by the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. You brought this point up as we led into this actual show, that we would be captivated by a spectacle, and that we would be disillusioned to the point that substance would be immaterial. And I seen Oprah proclaim that to vote for Donald Trump is to vote for a billionaire who seeks to only protect other billionaires. And I'm seeing a billionaire woman who has the ability and the capacity with her other billionaire friends in the Black community to put us in an economic position of self-sustainability and self-sufficiency, and had the audacity, brother, to tell us about a white man who seeks to look out for other white men. Even if that was 100% true, that's what he should be doing. But don't tell me about him taking care of his people when you have the opportunity and the means to take care of your people, and all you can do is point to is what our enemy is doing for himself. The damn ignorance and the audacity and the self-hate that was expressed in those words made me furious, brother. But I had to take a step back and say, this is what happens when a people is completely void of a sense of self. And when you see that you have people articulating love for themselves and for Black people, but are bad faith actors who only seemingly come out when it is for their benefit and for their own self-advancement. And so I want to discuss what has transpired, because when we discuss these things, we're able to articulate a stratagem to how to deal with it and how to avert the onslaught which is coming that can destroy us and disrupt us, that can lead to destruction, that for most of us will be irreversible. And for some of those people, brother, I can honestly report to you that they're irreversible, outside of just the true spirit of God coming in. And I want to close on this. The people without a knowledge of their past, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. So teaches the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. When you don't know history, and I don't mean his story, I don't mean his rendition of our history, I don't mean the repackaging and the repurposing of the same worn out, tired, deceptive, black-faced politicians, black-faced but white mind and white agenda-driven politicians who just 2 months ago, we all had came to the unanimous conclusion that this person hates Black people, not just in her words, but in her policies. That she doesn't even see herself as a Black person. And now we're falling victim because D.L. Hughley and Oprah and some comedians, from Keenan and Kel from Nickelodeon, is now telling us that she's a Black woman. Not that she has done anything for Black women or Black people, but she a Black woman because she says she's a Black woman today. And guess what? The opposite is Trump and 2025 and all these different things. No, when you don't know history, you will fall victim of the emotional whirlwind of the moment. And that has been curated for our destruction. They know Black people are emotionally driven, that they operate on feelings, not the logic-based decision process and system that intelligent people created and devised to make the best possible decision and have the best possible outcome. But they get you in the film. They play music to activate those dopamines and to get you into this rhythm that you now are escaping your reality. Because guess what? You came there to hear the policies or the positions of this particular woman in this particular party. And now you get inundated with John Legend and Stevie Wonder and these particular entertainers. And then you forget why you're there, because hell, who don't want to see John Legend? He got a beautiful voice. Stevie Wonder is a legend. I love his songs. But at the end of the day, because we're absent of history and these same tropes and these same misdirection has been used over and over again, we fall victim to the moment. And that moment is a fleeing moment, brother, that if we don't take advantage of this moment, we're going to lose 2 to 3 generations that won't be able to recover. So that's why I wanted to have this discussion, because, as this is an important election. This is an important time, not for the things that have been purported to be as important or the reasons why it is important, because again, the more that we distance ourselves from our solution and from what is really beneficial and advantageous for us, the further we remove the possibility of our children actually having life and actually having freedom and actually having power and independence. And that's just a risk and a sacrifice I'm not willing to take.
Most definitely. Most definitely, Crown Prince. I see why he my guide, right? I want y'all to understand. That's what's going on. In the title, I put Kamala Deception. If you remember around 2004, I know that some folks that were born around 2003, 2004, they're in the voting age space. You understand what I'm saying? They're in the voting age space, so they didn't live through some of the things they lived through. Around 2004, they started talking about and using the phraseology Obama deception. They used that term. And when we start talking about a arch deceiver, we start talking about that science of made devil, made weak and wicked from the beginning. In order to make devil, what must you do? In order to make devil, what must you do? You must graft from the original and make it weak and wicked from the beginning. So when you look in your scriptures in John, the 8th chapter, on down in there, 44th verse, he said, you are of your father, the devil. The lust of your father ye shall do. He was a murderer from the beginning. When he speaketh of a lie, he speaketh of his own. He abode not in the truth, but the truth does not abode in him. You see this grafting process, this emotional grafting process, this spiritual grafting process, this physical grafting process, the power of your mind, the transformation of one of sound mind and not with a spirit of fear being circumscribed and replaced with artificial intelligence. The artificial intelligence and a grafting process. So you are recounting being physically, emotionally, spiritually present in the space amongst a dead people who prefer to drink of the cup of death than to the overabundant flow of life cup. And recounting the horrific space of being physically present at a mental onslaught. And not only is it a mental onslaught, there's applause, there's great cheer and joy, right? Because the Obama deception was hope and change, right? So the people who were looking for hope, they got the hope. And the other people who were looking for change got change. Now we're on the precipice of joy. Joy. Now we're on the precipice of joy with the same program. The same program. So from Obama to Kamala, this space of deception was hope and change to joy. So the white coat syndrome comes out on the stage and reminds you of joy. Joy. Joy on time release. They're telling you about joy. This feels joy and joy. Like we're not living in this society. As if we're no longer in the society in the hells and smells of North America. Don't you feel happy? Aren't you excited? So the panning of the camera encapsulates, because we're going to get to the videos in 1 second. Because I don't want us, even though you were there, Crown Prince, it still is like, oh, well, maybe that's his. You don't see the deception. But it's right there in your face. It's not hidden. It's not covert. It's very overt. And when they call the monkeys to the stage, the monkeys, they come to the stage and they give them a script to read. And instead of speaking about what this direction is supposed to be forward, the pot shots that were there, the pot shots, we're going to ignore September 13th as we approach September 13th, 2024. We're going to ignore September 13th, 1994. The inaction into law, the 25,000 RoboCops that were out on the street. We're going to ignore the super predator remarks. We're going to ignore all of the things that happened in this 30-year time span between 1994 to 2024. And not only are we going to ignore them, Crown Prince, we're going to cheer and wipe from the memory, just as we did with the last election, with this guy who said our children would not qualify to be in the same schools as his children. He was absolutely correct. He said, I'm not sending my children to the jungle school. But somehow the Reformation was supposed to take place in his presidency, and he didn't. It didn't happen. Well, he was a part of the Obama deception. So now who's furthering along this deception? Kamala. It's there. It's right there in front of your face. This is a game to them, and we are toys to be played with because we like to be played with. We are a people of sport and play. So what are we doing? Playing and being hunted and massacred for sport, for mantles on the wall, trophies, spoils of war, casualties of war. They had the audacity to do this in Chicago and have you dancing and singing and screaming and shouting while the streets are paved with blood, the blood of our children, the blood of our women, the blood of our men. The chemical warfare that's being waged, none of that is being addressed. The human trafficking aspects on those same streets, none of that is being addressed. None of these things, none of the social ills or the maladies that will plague a mind, that will have a mind that's incensed, a mind that is aware, a mind that is conscious of itself, would revolt. Yet have you sing and dance and twerk and holler and scream. Back into 379 years ago. Back into 379 years ago, right? Not nowadays. Do you mean to say? The cyclic space of time and space of history continuing to repeat itself from our great grandfathers and mothers' time to our time. The same song in the dance. The same song in the dance. The friend to the Negro. The hope, the change. The joy. The deception. Crown Prince, right before I go to this video, this is what they do in wrestling. They have you cheering for the bad guy, right? They have you cheering for the bad guy. Even if you're booing the bad guy, you're giving the bad guy an acknowledgement. This is what you're giving them. And that's energy. So that hypersensitive fear template space, through this artful means of improper propaganda, you're going to the ring to do battle in the Colosseum of this Greco-Roman society. And the ones who are going to be affected by the onslaught are cheering for this oppressive Greco-Roman society. Has you in the Colosseum, right? Because that new Gladiator film, Part 2, is coming out, timely. Because the Black Panther when it came out, it was timely, right? It was timely, right there in November, right? And everybody was like, yeah. And they did that, right? Now this Gladiator film is coming out. Who's fighting in the arena? And who's in the space of deception in the film? Who's transported to this Greco-Roman time to be the one who's the mass global manipulator? Because the world is affected by what's going on here. The entire global Black population is affected by these events that are happening. All them African countries that got bombed with the Obama deception. We forgot all of that. We got the goldfish memory. We forgot all of the drone strikes and all of these African countries that were destroyed, and these Caribbean nations, South America, Central America, if we want to get a little close, that were destabilized. We went back to sleep on that. We was happy to see a cosplay looking face in the place. We can't do that shit twice. We can't do it twice. But I'm sure that we can with the power of our mind in that space. So I'm going to play this exhibit for your review, Crown Prince, and after that, we can have some commentary, and then I'll play the second one, because this is like, it's heinous. I wanted to go and start with the Obama mail deception, but because it was so incendiary, I want to start with the female Obama deception right here.
It couldn't be more obvious. Of the two major candidates in this race, only Kamala Harris truly understands the unseen labor and unwavering commitment that has always made America great. Now, unfortunately, we know what comes next. We know folks are going to do everything they can to distort her truth. My husband and I sadly know a little something about this. For years, Donald Trump did everything in his power to try to make people fear us. See, his limited, narrow view of the world made him feel threatened by the existence of two hardworking, highly educated, successful people who happen to be Black. want to know. Who's going to tell him that the job he's currently seeking might just be one of those black jobs? Look, it's his same old con. His same old con. Doubling down on ugly, misogynistic, racist lies as a substitute for real ideas and solutions that will actually make people's lives better. Look, because cutting our health care, taking away our freedom to control our bodies, the freedom to become a mother through IVF like I did, those things are not going to improve the health outcomes of our wives, mothers, and daughters. Shutting down the Department of Education, banning our books, none of that will prepare our kids for the future. Demonizing our children for being who they are and loving who they love, look, that doesn't make anybody's life better. Instead, it only makes us small. And let me tell you this, going small is never the answer. Going small is the opposite of what we teach our kids. Going small is petty, it's unhealthy, and quite frankly, it's unpresidential.
I yield to you, Crown Prince. I got 3,000 things to say, but I yield to you. I yield to you.
The reality as I'm listening to Michelle Obama's word again, I'm reminded that because their souls have been traded, given willingly, seemingly, for nothing, they think the price of the soul of Black people is worth nothing. We are undoubtedly, unquestionably, a dispossessed people, a people that has been deprived of land, of security, of possessions, property, such as culture, such as the ability to develop resources and to have an identity of self, due to our disposition of having a reality of being dispossessed. We have developed a socio-psychological process of hating ourselves and projecting that hate onto the general population of Black people. She spoke to us as if we were children. She spoke in a manner that, if you take it superficially or for what the crowd seemed to do for face value, that she was dignifying us. But as you can hear, and it's easily distinguished with those who have the spiritual tuned ear to hear what is actually being shared and said, that the innate disrespect and loathing that she has for her people is at such a point that she like, yeah, I'm giving you niggas SHIT and you gonna love it. Like, I'm literally saying nothing. I have not positioned one word to the reality of your plight, of your displacement, of your ongoing trials and tribulations and traumas that you have to deal with every second. I'm going to talk to you as if me disparaging the other party, the other candidate, and trying to have you fall victim to an emotional pool of, look how bad this white man is, that you can omit my attempt to perpetuate whiteness in black skin. That I have done nothing personally. My husband, in an administrative role as the president, has done nothing collectively for black people. Some would say the decline in the black reality has been elevated by the Obama administration because it proves to us that we can hold, or we think it proves to us that we can hold the highest seat in office and still not have any progress. I mean, think about psychologically how detrimental and devastating it is that we've become such a dejected people, brother, that we know that there's no hope for us. And so as you led to that dissertation or, clip of Michelle, the theme for her candidacy, that was, I mean, you should have heard it in real time. I mean, the theme of joy. Let's get Negroes. And you say, I know you all keep saying black people, like they're talking to other people too. It's white people, it's Asian, it's Hispanics. They all have a cultural, at least a base enough of a cultural identity where they can play the game. You're not playing the game. You're being played. And that don't mean that individuals still, but listen to what I'm saying. Hispanics still have certain things being a lot to them. Jews, LGBT, all of them have concessions that are specifically tailored to them as an identity and as a group. You and I have been hit with only one objective and agenda: benign neglect. Pretend they don't even exist relative to any policy or any protections. That the plight of black people has now been displaced with minorities, which is all encompassing. So you said joy. Get niggas caught up on an emotion. Get them caught up on a feeling. How we want to listen. We're going to tell you, we're not here to make anything as far as substantive, as far as change that is going to be promoted or is going to be positioned or is going to be even shared as a possible outcome for black people. We just want you to feel good. We want to get you as high and drunk off the idea of progress without any substance. Joy. We're offering joy, not reparations, not allotments, not any financial restitution, not even a hate crime bill that is tailored specifically to black people who we just seen. Our sister Sonia Messi, who just got murdered in her own home with a police officer who had the intentions to kill from the moment he walked in that door. It was obvious and it was blatant. We say you got. My point is, they're selling us joy. And it seems that if it's not all of us, a substantial amount is buying a hook, line, and sinker. So when I'm listening to a brother and I give way to you, I seen another person acting and putting on a role and playing a part. She is positioning herself for a possible run in the future. She want to see, hey, can I be the president or vice president or some elected high office, which I've seen others do before, that's the whole plan. Because remember, the narrative has been, because Kamala was so far from an option for most people when they knew the cognitive decline of Joe Biden was unescapable and that he was completely unfit for office. It was three names that would be thrown around in the circles that I know. It was Newsom, from California, the governor, Pritzker from Illinois, the governor, and Michelle Obama as the possible candidates for president and vice president of these United States that will replace Joseph Biden. So again, brothers and sisters, man, well, there's so much I want to say, but it's really disgusting, man. It's really disgusting. And this is a black woman who supposedly came from the South Side of Chicago, who was raised with a certain understanding of her blackness, who's completely been compromised if she wasn't that way from the start. And we're seeing in real time. And I would plead with us that we escape the pageantry that we've been kind of caught up in these last number of decades. Enough is enough, and if we haven't seen that with this circus that was put before us with the Democratic National Convention, then hell, we ain't gonna never see it. I give way to you, Brother Knowledge.
The dancing and singing and the hand holding and all of that, reminiscent of the March on Washington in 63. A thing that was violent at the outset. That March on Washington was a march on Washington to destroy Washington. By the time the Pied Piper and the Big Six had got a hold of it, they were paid to be there and paid to read a speech. The hugging and the whole hand holding and the dancing and the singing was resounding. An entire rebellion was quelled by a dream. And if you ask most folks about the I Have a Dream speech, the only thing they remember from the speech is what? I have a dream.
Yeah.
The cashing of the check speech, the speech about reparations, that wasn't King's speech, that he was given and paid $1 million to read. The march that he didn't start.
Come on.
Where he met up with the people and turned it from tumultuous, an upheaval, a beautiful uprising, an insurrection of sorts, if you want to use that word, to a peaceful demonstration that was met on the bridge with military might. Was met on the bridge with military might. It wasn't met on the bridge with love. Do you know when your house catches fire, there's a group of people, there's an emergency service organization that's supposed to come to your house and put the blaze out? What were they doing in the 1960s with those water hoses? What fire were they putting out?
Yeah.
Who did they turn those water hoses on? Do you know why it takes forever for the fire department to arrive at your house? Because they hope that you're dead.
Yeah.
How long did it take the fire department? How long was Malcolm out in the cold after the house was firebombed? An hour with his rifle alone while his house was burning? We just forget this stuff, Prophets. We just forget this stuff.
Yeah.
We forget that we are descendants from people whose fire hoses were turned on to extinguish the fire of rebellion that exists in the space where we're dealing with civil unrest. That was the response. We're not talking about police and agents. They didn't have any weapons. They didn't have any tear gas. They didn't have any billy clubs. The weapon that they had was a space of authority and their allegiance to their family's power structure, past, present, and future. So they turned those fire hoses that are there, that's supposed to extinguish the flame, and watch with joy as the bodies of our ancestors, elders, young and old, being toppled as if they were dousing out flames, clothes being ripped off the bodies by the pressure of the water that came out of the hoses. This is the fire department. This isn't the police force. This isn't the local police force, the city. This isn't the county. This isn't the state. This is the fire department. Do you know in those neighborhoods, like we look at Chicago to get an ambulance? You know why the ambulance doesn't come? You know how many black people died in those ambulances? By those emergency service organizations that was coming over there acting as if they were performing life resuscitating actions and smothering and killing black people. Do we forget these things? Do we draw a blank? Do we forget that these organizations and these fraternal organizations, don't let me go there, right? That's too much. These oath takers, honest to Bob Steve Hope Sr., rest in peace, peace and blessings be upon him and his righteous family. These oath takers that are there have a sworn duty. A sworn duty to uphold. So the people that were supposed to save your property from damaging your life, from being harmed, they're there as an accelerant towards our destruction. And we clap, and we laugh, and we sing, and we dance. H. Rap Brown, Imam Jamil Al-Amin said, politics is war without bloodshed. And war is an extension of those politics. Politics is war without bloodshed, but we have a bloody revolution in the minds and the hearts because we are the brunt force. We continue to take the brunt force of this warlike onslaught for the minds and hearts of our people and our people's future. Michelle said kids. She said kids. There's a species in the animal kingdom that gives birth to kids. Goats have kids. So we continue to produce the scapegoats in this tyrannical war onslaught. And we clap, and we dance, and we sing. Kids, she said. Mothers, she said. She said mothers and daughters and women, while also saying choice. Mothers, daughters, women while saying body choice. If you adopt the choice, quote unquote, there's no mothers, there's no daughters, there's no women, there is no humanity. If you adopt the choice, you already made the choice by going through with the action. Choice is already made. Now you're dealing with the aftermath of the decision that you made. Now you're confronted with the decision of extermination. And before our faces, they're talking about this in a political arena, the war arena. It looks bloodless. It looks seemingly as if these words could never hurt you. And if words could never hurt you, they say sticks and stones could break my bones, but words would never hurt me. If words couldn't hurt you, what is the 1994 crime bill? Are those words? Were those words? The Patriot Act 1 and 2, were those words? Words. Was there an act of legislation of the Jim Crow? We could go through all of the legislation. We could go through all of the legislation. They're all words that we bind ourselves to. I wonder why Malcolm was killed. Was he killed for his words? I wonder why the Honorable Michael Zion Garvey was deported and killed. Was it because of his words? I wonder if the Honorable Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad was killed for his words. Dr. King, when he went off script and said, "Why I'm opposed to the Vietnam War," when he wrote, "I've been to the mountaintop," when he wrote those hundreds of letters of prison, those were words that led to his demise. It's words. So incensing and mobilizing the masses of Black America to go and to cast their vote with this sorcery, are they not words? Are these promises empty? Deception happens in regards to the word. I was on conference with our sister K Fighter, Uncle Tad on Thorough Black Talk on Thursday. And I talked about Bob Steve Coakley, senior piece of blessing be upon him and his family. He spoke about warfare and he said intention plus capability equals threat. Intention plus capability equals threat. So if I promised somebody I was going to whoop their behind and I don't deliver, that's an empty promise. Now I have to worry about retaliation from the threat because my intention was, but I didn't have the capability to, that's a threat. But if I had the intention and capability, I'm not worried. Now they're worried. So this intention in this space of bloody, emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical warfare that happened on the stage with words that you cheer for or you denounce in the Coliseum are damaging to yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And they use the sensory words. Small, big, woman, children, future, precedent. Oh, excuse me, president, not precedent. Excuse me, president. I mean, precedent. I mean, aren't they talking to you? And in the end, they said happen. She said happen to be black. She said intelligent, successful, that happen to be black. Knowing damn well this cosplayer that's next to her ain't. So to cosplay in front of the world is to show you the only sort of black that we'll accept. We did this with this cosplay of a black male. Now we're doing this with the cosplay of the black female. How could you be a black family cheering for this? This is the substitute. So when you were talking about the black first in response, before that they were the Negro first. And 9 times out of 10, the Negro first were of mixed ancestry. So again, the only acceptable space in regards to what you're looking for in representation is whomever we say, whomever we recognize. Not the actual first, just whomever we say is the first. So again, the brunt of and the butt of the joke, but also the brunt of the onslaught that's happening. So I'm going to play this last clip right here, and then we could get into some more dialogue. Now we hear from the monkey and see if the monkey want to start or stop the show.
And as we gather here tonight, the people who will decide this election are asking a very simple question. Who will fight for me? Who's thinking about my future, about my children's future, about our future together? One thing is for certain, Donald Trump is not losing sleep over that question. Here's a 78-year-old billionaire who has not stopped whining about his problems since he rode down his golden escalator 9 years ago. It has been a constant stream of gripes and grievances that's actually been getting worse now that he's afraid of losing to Kamala. There's the childish nicknames, the crazy conspiracy theories, this weird obsession with crowd sizes. It just goes on and on and on. The other day I heard someone compare Trump to the neighbor who keeps running his leaf blower outside your window every minute of every day. Now, from a neighbor, that's exhausting. From a president, it's just dangerous. The truth is, Donald Trump sees power as nothing more than it means to his ends. He wants the middle class to pay the price for another huge tax cut that would mostly help him and his rich friends. He killed a bipartisan immigration deal written in part by one of the most conservative Republicans in Congress that would have helped secure our southern border because he thought trying to actually solve the problem would hurt his campaign. He doesn't. Do not boo. Vote. He doesn't seem to care if more women lose their reproductive freedom since it won't affect his life. And most of all, Donald Trump wants us to think that this country is hopelessly divided between us and them, between the real Americans, who of course support him, and the outsiders who don't. And he wants you to think that you'll be richer and safer if you will just give him the power to put those other people back in their place. It is one of the oldest tricks in politics from a guy whose act has, let's face it, gotten pretty stale. We do not need 4 more years of bluster and bumbling and chaos. We have seen that movie before, and we all know that the sequel is usually worse. America's ready for a new chapter. America's ready for a better story. We are ready for a President Kamala Harris.
Again, I got 300 things to say, but I'll yield for your thoughts.
I want to read a quote. I did a broadcast last week, and I brought this to the hearing of the people, and I want to just bring it up really quickly. Let me say I had the screen on full screen rather, and I didn't know that there were so many comments being made. Man, you have such an intelligent, very well-rounded, knowledgeable audience, and I want to commend them for their ability to be able to weed out a lot of this BS, man. And we need more brothers and sisters like those who watch your show to really take home of our responsibilities and really shift this thing to where it needs to be. Well, let me say this, brother. It was a philosopher, European, George Santana, in 1905. There's a quote that we hear often, right? It says, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." Then it's been attributed to other people, Roosevelt and others. But his actual quote from his book, the excerpt, it says, "Progress, far from consisting in change, depends on retentiveness. When change is absolute, there remains no being to improve and no direction is set for possible improvement. And when experience is not retained, as among savages, infancy is perpetual. Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." Why do I bring that up? You know, the irony of Obama's initial campaign slogan was change, like you said, and hope. And I think about how we as a people, and that's why I lifted up the prescient words of the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey at the beginning of this discussion. And people without a knowledge of their origin, their history, their culture is like a tree without roots. Because every generation, it seems, brother, knowledge that we have fallen victim to a new beginning, that we're not able to retain the lessons of our past. And in this particular case, it seems that we haven't retained the lessons of just 8 years ago. That we experienced Obama. He rather exposed the reality of his disdain for Black people because he himself does not identify as a Black man. You know, he said something, I don't know if people are familiar with this, but he visited Ghana, the Cape Coast slave dungeons. And when he was asked about his experience, he said he wasn't moved. He said he didn't feel anything. He said, you know, it was more for Michelle and for Sasha and his other daughter. But he said, I didn't, because he could not relate. He did not see himself, and he did not see his progenitors in the lineage of those who suffered the horrors of the transatlantic slave trade and were brought to this country, North America, as slaves. And he never connected with the reality of a people who suffered 400 years of dehumanization and the displacement and acculturation of an open enemy who sought and seeks to this very second to destroy us. And as those who were complicit with our enemy, our open enemy in that time, are still seemingly complicit with them in this day. And I'm saying that if we keep starting over, not just it surpassed each generation, it seems every 5 years it's like a restart where we have forgotten or we have disremembered the reality of the previous 5 or 4 years that preceded that up to that point, that we have a spiritual and cultural amnesia, that we are unable and incapable of recalling on the realities of what we have previously experienced as a legitimate cause to change course. We know this won't work because it has not worked. We know it will not work because they refuse to do anything different. And we become the fools. We become the perpetual infants, as George Santana stated in his quote, that are unable of taking on a responsibility of empowering ourselves because we collectively, or at least a large number or fraction of us, refuse to not just recall, but to retain the poisons and the onslaught of our enemy of the past. Hell, there's no history of Kamala. There's no history of Kamala doing anything that has been advantageous for Black people. There's no history of Kamala being or identifying as a Black person. I don't mean just in the sense of identification, but I mean the cultural appreciation of Blackness, in particular in America and our sojourn these last 400 years. She has never positioned herself outside of going to Howard and pledging as an AKA, which was symbolic and which was predatory in the sense that she's seen that there were certain advantages to identifying to that perceived minority group that allowed her to cover her collegiate costs and to position ourselves in that minority pool to get certain concessions. But it was never for the identification of her Blackness and then how do I correct it or how do I advance it. It was exploitive. It's clear. It's absolutely clear. That's why she can lay up with Montel Jordan, if I'm not mistaken, but marry a Jewish white man as far as her choice of mate, because she don't see herself as Black. Obama, yeah, he married a Black woman, but we see how that ended up. But we seen that was a cosplay because he knew that he had to position himself as a Black man for the ultimate goal. So I'm begging us that the cyclical nature that we have been on has been because we refuse to face the reality, the remission of the truth of our enemy, brother. The refusal to accept even the bad faith actors amongst us who have Black skin but have white minds and have white dispositions. And I mean white in the most exploitive and disruptive sense of the word. If we don't do like our brothers and sisters in the Haitian Revolution did when they understood, before we take it to the European, we got to remove those amongst us who will be the disruptors and the compromisers of our revolution, right? It was that same disposition and spirit that took out our brother Nat Turner, Denmark Vesey, so forth and so on. What I'm simply saying is this: Obama, we can't fall for that again. We can't fall for that again. Not in the feminine version of that, which is Kamala, not in any version. Listen, they willed out, and we can fill out if I don't want to, instead of getting to that discussion right now. But the mockery they're making of us, they willed out Hillary Clinton, who was the originator of the phraseology super predator in her attempt to back her husband at the time, William Clinton, the one who was in office who ran on a law and order ticket supposedly because it was seeming that the Democrats were soft coming after Bush, that they could still have that conservative disposition and locking up niggas and continuing the mandate of criminalization on black people, the disparities of 1 to 100 to 1 with the crack and cocaine. Then Joseph Biden, like you said it earlier, who was a understudy of Strom Thurmond, who spoke at his funeral, and those who are familiar with him was the South Carolina, the senator and governor at the time, who was essentially the epitome of racism in leadership and elected office at that time, who he backed with the busing, the anti-busing integration and so forth and so on, who co-authored a number of bills that disproportionately affected black people and their incarceration in the 80s. They wheeled out Reverend Jesse Jackson, who can't even talk, can't even speak no more. And you see how they did him. Well, we feel about him, we don't have to necessarily go into that, but they blackballed him. Right? So my point is that the mockery they're making of us by bringing out these tired, old, obviously, hateful and deceitful men and women who none of them have a track record for doing anything for us, and wants to convince us that this is a new day and they have turned over a new leaf. That actually, we didn't do nothing all those other times, all those number of decades before, 60 years of, we didn't do nothing then, but this time is different. Just give us one more chance. It's like the abusive husband, you know what I'm saying? I promise I won't beat on you this time. Yeah, all right. Or my point is that our only option is complete withdrawal from their systems, right? And we can go further into what that looks like, after you go, brother. But when I hear Obama again, I get incensed because I'm like, y'all won't even pull out nobody new. Like, at least get us with somebody that we ain't heard before. Give us somebody who we can't point to their policies and their clear and evident time in office. Like, give us somebody that you can at least try to pose as being for us, because they have a non-history of abuse of black people. They won't even do that. It's like, I don't give a damn about you niggas. We're going to give you John Legend, and then we're going to give you Bill Clinton. No, that time is up, man. The spectacle is over. We done seeing the circus. We done seeing the shows. Our people, are tired of being pimped out and misled, trifled over. We're in a day again where I believe, Brother Knowledge, that we will not return to the pacifist, conformist way that a lot of us have championed as a mean to adopt a coping mechanism so that they don't have to actually deal with the reality of things, that they can just try to numb the pain, to adapt and to conform to the new reality of their believed perpetual underclass status. And it's a group of us that, no, we ain't doing that, man. We ain't doing that. And I think that's where we at, brother. And that's why this conversation is so important, because too long have we allowed those voices to, overspeak and overshadow the real sentiments and the truth of where black people need to go as a collective. And I'll close on this. This is important because you spoke about the word and the power of the word, right? And we can go into the scripture why this point, we can go to a number of other things. But we are coming at a point where we're not letting Negroes say or we're not championing Negroes who say what they feel. That ain't the best. We're championing us who say what needs to be said based on truth and the ability to speak truth to power, because that is what is the most dangerous, but is also the most powerful force and weapon in the living universe. Those who can speak what needs to be said, irrespective of the danger that it presents. Because the power of truth has the ability to dispel the deception and lies that have our people paralyzed and imprisoned. And I think we're at that point, brothers like you and this platform and others, and I pray I'm in that number, that can speak that truth to power and then actualize it with tangible strategies that allow us to now bring into existence a new reality, brother. And that's where we at with it. I'll give way to you.
So this other form of deception, the reason why I chose those two clips, and I wanted you to see from the adage, a nation can rise no higher than its woman, on full display. And the weaponization of the mothers of civilization, the one who births God into existence in the physical realm. The disrespect. Hajj Malik El Shabazz, Brother Omar Wali, affectionately known to the world as Minister Malcolm X, said that the most disrespected and most unprotected woman in existence was the black woman. "2024 is still true. 2024 is still true. The mockery of our foremothers, the exploitation, the black exploitation of our youth, these young women that they have on the screens, parading around for our attention and consumption. There's no outcry. There's a celebration. There's a celebration for the systematic separation between she and her.
Yeah.
You know, in Islam, they teach that don't cut off relations with the wombs that bore you. So the wombs that give us birth, we are now in an incendiary space, in an epic battle of fighting against her. She's in an epic battle of fighting against him. So to see this display of so-called genuine concern and care, right? He's a captivating orator.
Yeah.
He's a captivating orator. There are 4 people in history that have a similar speaking style, almost identical. Adolf Hitler, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and Barack Hussein Obama.
Yeah.
FDR had polio. He couldn't even stand. He found a way to have a device that propped him up so he could stand and give these address at the helm of World War II. Adolf Hitler, almost identical speaking style, galvanized the European fighting force from the laughing stock to the most advanced and fearless fighting force. His quest for world domination would have been complete in a decade. We know who financed him. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was successful with his speaking style to galvanize. If you pan through that crowd, just like you pan through that crowd on the March on Washington, when you go back and you analyze the speaking style and its effect on people, you'll see that Adolf Hitler, FDR, Martin Luther King, and Barack Obama had the ability in that same wow effect where the people were entranced by that speaking style. Just go through and look at the speeches. Look at the speeches, the visual speeches, and look at the people's faces in the crowd.
Yeah.
When you look at or you listen to this monkey speak, when you're panning around the crowd, you see the reactions in the crowd. When he said, we saw that movie again, they panned to Don Cheadle.
Mm-hmm.
Was that by accident?
Absolutely not.
They said, we saw that movie and that movie was bad. And he described how his former vice president was, but he attempted to report that to Donald Trump. He gave a report card for his former vice president, the current president of the United States, an assessment. Bumbling.
Yeah.
Stumbling. He said, we saw that movie and it was horrible, and the sequel is always worse. They pointed at Don Cheadle and he was smiling.
Yeah.
We saw him in the film, in the Marvel comic universe, right? He was a black superhero, but we didn't see him in the sequel.
Mm-mm.
We didn't see him in the sequel. And we got a picture of him smiling and cheering. And they wrote him out of the story. They used movie. They used this imagery. They used this cinematic space. They used the same cinematic space. The movies that we go to see, because I said Gladiator and I was talking about the Gladiator film. D.W. Griffin in 1915 came out with Birth of a Nation. There were no black actors in the film, but there were people in blackface. They donned blackface. And they showed the people in the movie, man, woman, child, cheering for the Ku Klux Klan. They made a hero. They made a villain. They used the movie to do it. These were proper propaganda techniques that they utilized. Adolf Hitler used the proper propaganda of hope and change. Crown Prince, he said that I'm going to put a chicken in every pot
Yeah.
and an automobile in every garage. Don't that sound like hope and change to you?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was successful. He did it. He put a chicken in every pot. And that Volkswagen in every garage. Galvanizing the people towards their own destruction disguised as empowerment.
Yeah.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, I fear that I've integrated my people into a burning house. That's what he said. So when we looked at the movie, right? We looked at the movie. They said the sequel was supposed to be worse. It's the same movie. It's the same movie. Over and over. Both him and Michelle talked about the oldest trick in the book
Yeah.
while doing the lust of their father. Murdering with words. Disguised as hope, change, and joy. We need a president, he said. Then he called that monkey by name. There's only one trailer out for that movie, Gladiator 2. Denzel Washington's in the film, by the way. And he tells the slave, quote unquote, you're going to be my champion. That's what he tells him in the trailer. You're going to be my champion. The prefects are discussing, and there's a small scene where he says, one to the other, the Roman subjects are hungry. We have to feed them. The next scene, there's the voice of the other prefect's response. He said, let them eat war. Not let them eat cake, you know, the other space. He said, let them eat war. So this war that is afoot, that's brewing on these rostrums in these public spaces, in a space like Chicago, a space affectionately termed as Si Medina. Historically in the Islamic world, Medina was the place that Muhammad went to rearm, retool, to take back Mecca. The relationship between Medina and Mecca, the relationship between Si Medina and D Mecca, Chicago and Detroit. Do I got to go into that history? The relationship between Harlem and Brooklyn is there.
Yeah.
Prophet Noble Drew Ali, peace and blessings be upon him, came to North in 1913. His work between Newark, New Jersey, and Chicago, Illinois was a different thing.
Yeah.
So in the space of standing before us, Dr. King on April the 3rd, 1968, at the Masonic Temple in Memphis, Tennessee, spoke about going to the mountaintop. He said, I've been to the mountaintop. I've been to the mountaintop. And in that glorious speech, he named his defectors and detractors as friends. The woman who stabbed him in his chest with the letter opening,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
he named her. But before he got into all of that, he talked about the time periods of history, and he said if he could been in any time period history, he alluded to the glorious times of the past.
Hmm.
This is the day before his assassination, knowing that he was going to be assassinated.
Yeah.
Smiled in the face of death, saying, I want to be here right now. If there was any other place that I could be, I want to be here right now, right here, right now. No place else in history. No, that won't do. This right here, right now. April 3rd, 1968, right there in that moment. In that speech, he said, like anybody, I would like to live a long life.
Longevity has its place.
But I cannot be concerned with that now. I'm just here
to do the will
to
of
do God's will.
Mm-hmm.
So this man stood before you and gave you this invigorating, captivating speech to say nothing. He did not come out of the womb, Crown Prince. I'm so glad that you alluded to him going to the slave dungeons and not being moved.
Not being moved, yeah.
He didn't come out of the womb for the movement.
Yeah.
He was not moving around in the womb of a black woman. He didn't contract and expand and grow and go through the gestation period in that womb. So how could he go to the womb of the planet?
Yeah. And be moved.
And be moved. He's not moved by that. So this Indonesian, Canada type of situation didn't come out of a black woman. Why would she move for you? She's there to prey on you.
Yeah.
She's there to prey on you. She's there to devour you. She's here to go up and down in the earth seeking whom she should devour. We're right here, ripe for the picking. She cosplayed and put on the uniform and the chucks and the pearls and the collard greens in the tub. Now. Because she doesn't have to defend herself. Just like the Rainbow Coalition don't got to defend itself. It will always find some monkeys out here to defend them with their lives.
Yeah.
So these two puppets got on the stage and did the song and the dance. She doesn't have to defend herself. Crown Prince, our family members are fighting one another in the virtual and physical space about this monkey. They got together and raised millions of dollars for this monkey. She don't need that. She don't need none of that. Nor does she care anything about it. So whether her or her contemporaries was walking around with hot sauce in their purse or Miles Davis records or Kanye's Apple, and whatever the case may be, that is all that is required to receive our allegiance.
Yeah.
Until death. Until death. My brother, sincere love to God, peace to the God. Check out Sincere Love to God. His Godcast over there, he said, vote blue is a religion. An indoctrination that we adopted after the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
So this vote, blue or die, right?
Mm-hmm. Vote or die.
It's been a tool that has been utilized. So black people in this country, quote unquote, have been voting since the 1800s. Quote unquote white women weren't able to vote to the 1920s. We don't have the time, the energy, or the luxury to continue to love the devil because the devil gives us nothing.
It's nothing. Yeah. Mm.
So
Mm.
the smile, the song, the dance, the charade, the masquerade that was just put on should be seen as a, a vile form, the most vile form of disrespect
Yeah.
and dishonor. So whether it was Oprah, whether it was Steve, whether it was John, whomever it was that was on the roster that filled the stage, whether they was jerking or twerking, your life hangs in the balance on how you position. The thing I'll say in the last remark, when they started to boo, he said, "Don't boo,
Yeah.
vote."
Well, yeah.
Tell me you wasn't at a Coliseum. Tell me you wasn't around the minds of folks that are dealing with mass manipulation to
Yeah.
the point automatically. Do you know at these mock trials that they had to lynch our ancestors, they would boo and they would throw rotten vegetables? Don't that sound Greco-Roman? Don't that sound like the Colosseum? It's the same thing. So wrong thinking folks are supposed to assemble together in a space to mobilize towards self-determination, their recourse in a space that affects their great-grandchildren is taboo. It's taboo and clap and sing and dance and applaud. Go ahead, Crown Prince.
No, brother. Man, you said so much, and there's so much to unpack. And I see my two of my cameras went dead. And I know we winding down. So I'll close with this. Let me first say this. The salient point that you raised relative to the importance of them choosing Chicago was not coincidental or by happenstance. As you stated, in Islam, what Si Medina represents is symbolic or analogous to what it represents to the Black consciousness of Black America. This little piece of real estate relative to the many cities where we find ourselves here in North America is the microcosm of what it means to be or to mount resistance through the consciousness of your identity and the refusal to accept a foreign identity. This place houses some of the most revolutionary minds, whether they were born in this little city or they were brought here by circumstance. You made mention to Prophet Noble Drew Ali, who made the journey from Newark, New Jersey to Chicago to house the Moorish Science Temple of America. You talk about the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, who found his journey bringing him to Chicago, even though the headquarters was in Detroit initially, the first mosque, first temple, Detroit, but Chicago ended up being the headquarters. You talk about the revelation of the reality of King being integrated into a burning building. Most of us who know the history understood that reality came in his visit in Chicago, when he said that he faced a racism that he had never seen nowhere in the South. But he also seen a power and a presence in his meeting with the most honorable Elijah Muhammad that he had never seen anywhere in his travels. Even though they attribute Gandhi being his influence and all of those different things, it was that meeting with the messenger that transformed his trajectory, that put him on a higher level of understanding relative to the solutions to Black people. We can go on and on and on. We also see people find their credibility in Chicago, like what Barack Obama had to do, even though he was from Hawaii and he found the place, his stuff all over the place. He came to Chicago to lay roots, to say that he was credible and verifiable relative to the Black struggle and that Black identity. My father, our spiritual leader, His Excellency Ben-Ami, Prince Asiel, these great men who went through that spiritual gestation period, right, in Chicago. I bring that up because this is important to me. Even though I'm an international man, my lineage, my roots is found in America, is found in Chicago. I can date it back to the 1800s. I was born from the struggle of Black people here in America, in North America in particular. So when I look at how in their attempt to conquer us, they strategically pick locations that allow them to establish a perceived sense of dominance and victory. And that's why they chose Chicago. If we can get the most galvanized and centralized revolutionary Black men and women to fall victim to our deception and our pageantry, we could do it anywhere. And that's why it was chosen here. It was intentional in 68. You didn't just have the messenger. You had other revolutionary spirits that even in the street organizations that were finding themselves to another level of thought. Fred Hampton Sr. You had Jeff Fort. You had David Barksdale. You had Larry Hoover. These young men who, oh, those are gangsters. No, these were men who said that I didn't want to live under the domination of white people, that I would organize in my cliques and my groups a centralized force of Black men that at the beginning and at the outset of their establishment would be a protective mechanism in their communities. And we can go on and on and on, right? So I say this relative to what you said, brother, that these coping mechanisms, these distractionary practices that we have assumed has brought us to this point. We have to understand that we are in the most important time that we could possibly be born in, because we're here and we're aware and we're conscious. As Dr. Martin Luther King said, I wouldn't be in any other time, in any other place. That's how we who are awake feel and see ourselves. I wouldn't be in any other place. I used to be a time I said, damn, I think I should have been born in the past because it was, or maybe I'm ahead of my time, and you fall victim to it. No, you're right on time if you understand time and what must be done in that time. And I'm saying with all of the foolery, all of the theatrics, all of the seemingly refashioning of the Black mind, we're in the most perfect time, because there is eradication of the slave mind and an ushering in of the God mind that will be the most predominant, powerful force on the planet if we do what we're supposed to do. And God, and I mean that in the most literal sense, not in no religious, figurative spooky sense. I mean the power that we possess, the power of creation, the power of the universe, the power of nature, the power of our ancestral forces, the power of our creator and the spirit that he has endowed in us is at play when we recognize that consciousness and we use the power of our truth to eradicate falsehood. So, brother, as I close out with this, man, and my sincere and genuine gratitude to you and to what you've done. We was just speaking earlier, man, 9 years, over 3,000 episodes. I mean, talking about a example of consistency and persistency, brother. Your value is beyond words and beyond any material thing that we could provide, though we still need to provide resources to support you and to empower you. You're invaluable, brother, and what you've done and what you can continue to do to give little brothers like myself a platform to speak, this truth and to be a light and example to those who may feel like Elijah did, that he's all alone. And then God told him that I got, 7,000 just like you scattered throughout the earth waiting to to you stand up, and so that you can see yourself in others and others can see themselves in you, right? And that's where we at right now, that though it may seem like a few, that's all we ever needed. And it's only going to take a few of us, but it's going to take those who are serious and that have the contriteness of heart and the genuine desire to see our people free once and for all and willing to risk whatever it takes. Yeah, that's coming into fruition. And the spirit of those who preceded us, man, that are at play and that really we have their backing and we have their support and we have the power of their life and their legacy to build upon and to continue, and not to just edify, but to give us the requisite knowledge to destroy our enemies once and for all, man. And we at that point. So again, the beauty of that spectacle, if we can, extrapolate one positive thing, is that there's enough brothers and sisters that can have the conversation, that can fiercely and intelligently dissect it in a way that empowers us and that we don't fall victim going forward. I think is unlike any other time previously, at least, that we can go back to, that we're at a point where, again, those of us who awake, we ain't going back to sleep, right? And we see the importance of our unity and of our formulating, the necessary collective, direct, and concise strategy to really, really not just empower ourselves at this present moment, but to empower the future generations that, again, they don't know this chicanery and this deception that we have, been victimized by to a degree, man. And we reclaiming our identity and we're reclaiming our culture and we're reclaiming our power, right? And we're at the point where, again, man, that we will prevail. The time is now. The time is now. The time is now. And I do want to come back, brother, and really go to some strategies as much as we can intelligently say online. But they're going to continue to heighten, their propaganda, and we have to, fight that with the continuous outpour of this truth, the real truth, as a way to dispel their lies and deception, because our people ready. And that's why I made mention to earlier that the power when you walk in, when you awake, that you can speak to the dead of not just other people, but they can identify the power in you. And though they may attribute to, the way you dress, whatever. Yeah, you got a nice hair. No, what they're really talking to is, damn, how did you manage to free yourself and not just free yourself, be fearless and bold in your freedom? Like, how do we get where you are? Our people are ready for that, for the most part, man. And when we present that clean cup, like the messenger said, they're going to choose it every single time. So again, brother, I'm grateful to you, man. I appreciate you. I love you, man. I love what you've done for our people. I love what you've done for my family. And for me personally, you are my big brother. I know you give me the accolades that you follow my lead, but brother, I follow your lead all the time, man. And you are truly an inspiration, man. And I really do Really do, brother, man. I love you for what you've done, and will continue to support and be by your side, in this fight, because we are at war, brothers and sisters. And we're on a war on many fronts, but that's okay, because it takes war to bring freedom and to bring justice, and it takes war internally amongst one another, first in ourselves, then amongst one another, and without open enemy. But the thing is when you're sincere about truth and you're sincere about the desired outcome, you will be victorious. And I see our victory is right here at the door, man. And again, I thank you, brother. So, shalom.
Shalom said I've been to the mountaintop and he looked over and seen the promised land. So as the biblical narrative suggests with Moses and Aaron, they saw a promised land that they could not enter. They looked over the mountaintop and saw a promised land that they could not enter. It wasn't necessary for them to enter. They had the responsibility of leading a people to the promised land. And in that speech, he said, I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. Is this the promised land that he was alluding to? What qualifies it? Who is qualified to lead us there? Or are they continuing to lead us into temptation? In the space of fear and evil, right? Being intentional and being mindful of the amount of focus, commitment, and discipline that it takes. I'll carve out an example. Two, actually. Between 1791 and 1831 is 40 years. Between August 22nd, 1791 and January 1st, 1804, it's almost 13 years. The free zone on the planet that still exists to this date, the only free zone for Black people around the world is Haiti. The world, the only requirement for you to be free is for you to reach there. Then there was a people there that would defend your liberation with their life. 13 years, almost. And when we add 27 more years to that time period, we have a man who took the spiritual orders of his general, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, and began an insurrection, a reclamation space through Northampton, Virginia, by the name of Nat Turner. They asked him who his general was. His general was Jean-Jacques Dessalines. A 40-year time span. There was a man in Tanzania who took power in the end of the 1800s by the name of Kozi Amakosi Shaka Zulu, who after his fall. The soldiers and the people that he trained fought the British and the European colonial powers for 80 years. Our legacy against unrest, tyranny, and oppression, the remedy has always been resistance. Resistance. So whether we look at the Maroon colonies or the Zulu colonies, whether we looked at the Mau Mau or any of the resistance movements that span from here to the mother continent and everything in between. A space of resistance is necessary to vanquish and eliminate threats, internal, external, foreign, and domestic. That's the same for anything that is to call itself a nation, and any of its inhabitants to call itself its citizens. In defense of itself against tyranny and oppression, its citizens revolt, its military fights. So if we are to put ourselves in a position as your father envisioned, my father envisioned, your mother envisioned, my mother envisioned, and the collective mothers and fathers that we are comprised of, anciently, ancestrally, currently, in the future space. We owe a debt of resistance, and we owe a debt of separation. We owe a debt of resistance and a debt of separation. Nothing that was displayed in regards to this illustrious pageantry is reflective of any means of resistance or any means of separation. Only the illusion and disillusion of inclusion. And I'm thankful to you and to your family for the legacy of resistance that has been garnered, is being garnered, and will continue to be garnered by the laudable works in the myriads of its fold towards a space of righteous restoration. To those of us who are willing and able, those who have the intention and capability to be a disruption and to be a threat to the mass exodus away from our nature. And who continue to utilize every means available mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually to resist the wiles and the temptations of the arch deceivers. So honest to you, I extend my hand in love and gratitude to you and to your family, and to return that retributionary love that you expressed. We in this together, and I'm thankful for the opportunity that your family bestowed and continues to bestow upon me to help to curate that legacy of resistance. My audacious goal before I exit this planet in the physical realm is to righteously document and report 1 million Black stories around the planet. So if one of those numbers are true, as stated by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, 4,400,000,000 all over the planet Earth, 1 million Black stories. We get 2 million in DC. We could get 1 million. Righteously told Black stories where nobody has to wear a dress. No one has to succumb to mass exploitation, humiliation, rituals, ambiguous looking folks, non-phenotypical, and go to these waste stations and beg for someone to share their story, for them to get a glimpse into the coonery, buffoonery, and savage nature that is so attractive to the Western world in general and to our enemies in particular. Thank you for being in a space of continual resistance on every level. You and all of the family in the kingdom, and continuously through word and deed, being shining examples of the Edenic society that our ancestors promised us. So we'll be back for part 2, most definitely. The people asking for it, they craving it. You understand what I'm saying? And we'll set this up together soon, most high willing. You got any final remarks, anything you wanted to touch on real quick before we go?
No, sir. You hit it. Just that I'm grateful, and peace and blessings to you, brother, and peace and blessings to the listening audience and to the family here and abroad.
All right. The great, the wonderful, my international ambassador, Crown Prince Malik Yosef. Peace and blessings, y'all. Part 2 coming soon.
In 86, the devil raised the bar, but I'm a hurdler. And I'm the good thief. I sneak in your toxic house, the burglar. The musical Merkaba came to set free the Lucifer worshippers. Like James Bond 007, the soul of an old legend. Negative energy murderer. Good or evil, angel or demon interpreter. Kings with frankincense and myrrh. And perfumes anoint me soon as my birth occur. Like Ben-Hur, I'm indigenous to Gilgamesh. With brilliantness became the builders of the pyramids. Now we lost in American North wilderness. I became the force, a poor man's ventriloquist. On the island far away from home like Gilligan. Took us from our villages till we found our way back through resilience and our diligence. Through rags and wave caps, black fists look militant. In college remembrance, while living ignorance. Striving kids with innocence, dreams fly limitless. Straight towards the nebula, with cannon or the terror. Black boys face, we all in this together. I chase demons in my cape, my sword and my scepter. His brother Glow the Great, the lord of this era. Royal priesthood, gold plates and treasures. Anubis, my eye, wear your heart against the feather. Cardi Satan out your soul. Lifting him out, he's on a stretcher with my divine helicopter. With shocking propellers, the outlines made of copper. The fortune teller, my dragon glows green like matcha. New York regalia, like Robin Walker is the prophet Walter. From the days of Iron Sheik versus Sergeant Slaughter. Blue around my garment borders. Fringes, execute vengeance. Mathematics, Qurans and Taurus. Rock the head of Horus. Rocks in the watch is gorgeous. Behind my will, it fell into the wheel. Metamorphing. Start spinning clockwise and counterclockwise. On the outside, my car became a flying saucer. Straight through the orbit. Use my mind. Lose my mind. I will. Use my mind.
Yo, masquerade killer, Michael hijacked the sun, matinee thriller. Zombie apocalypse, a center for disease, says my tracks are way iller. Isodrenochrome cubes keep they cabernet chiller. And thought this thought, they don't want you to think. Knowledge is power, shock the flowers, make my aura look pink. To know the ledge, godly hour, push your thoughts to the brink. You can't even close your eyes, become a corpse if you blink. Where the oracle sink, I was born in the Sphinx. Copper DNA necklace with historical links. Hiding poison in the food, in the water you drink. Cause they raised done and they just biding their time. Throw food the lost tube coming down on my mind. Stab you with a light ray cause you was dying to shine. Then I disappeared like a truth post in your IG. Holy Spirit dripping like a ghost in your IB. Can't deport them all, we was already here. So get in tune with the voices in the water right here. You don't see the embryo in the form of your ear. Invisible man, I make myself awfully clear. Royal priesthood, astrologies is Lord of the Spheres. Throwing platinum plates, you thought the flying saucers appeared. Yeah, they scared to wear their own face in the street. Deep elixirs, beast addicted to the taste of the sheep. On Harry Potter's wheel, the god knew arrange my physique. Kai, Elohim, hemoglobin, the Arabian chic. 7 circles like the planets in the days of the week. Supreme math, solar facts in the language I speak. You brainwashed if you watching the news. Never make the wrong step when the law's in my shoes. The dream weaver make it seem there's no option to choose. Corona dope fiends, they be trying to nod. They in line to get shot, that's a fireman squad. Pharmaceutical, shoot to kill line with the gods. I cried for the angel babies that have died in the fog. Caught up in the crossfire, like a panther in the Klan rally. Zodiac, they need these answers in my hands badly. Like palm readers, break dancers in the sand valley. I moonwalked on chemtrails in the sky. On the path to ancient Kemet, where the scales in my eyes. The sun and moon temple sitting on the side of my head. A million years I still remember every line that I said. Hermes Trismegistus, serve me the statistics. 99 attributes of Allah, 99% survival rate. Imagine the odds when you're the Neo, you're the one that made the patterns evolve. Another chapter to solve, why did Saturn revolve? Spinal column, I am Amen, climb the ladder to Oz. On a rocket to Nebula, the planet of the gods.